Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning from sunny Lausanne. Welcome to this IMD webinar on celebrating progress, women shaping traditionally male majority industries. It's a pleasure to welcome you. My name is Öykü Işık. I'm a professor of digital strategy and cybersecurity at IMD Business School. I am joined here in Lausanne to facilitate this session with my colleague Josephine van Zanten. She is the Chief Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Officer at IMD Business School. And we have an amazing panel of speakers that will bring in a plethora of different experiences and expertise and perspectives to the topic. Let me start by introducing our panelists, but before I do so, and before I forget, let me highlight, please do send in your questions. There is a Q&A box you will find on Zoom that you will be able to type in your questions. And later on, towards the end of the webinar, Josephine and we will talk about these questions and we will address as many of these questions as we can as we go along into the conversation. Today, I am joined by Coraline de Wurstenberger. She is the owner of a women's estate, a winery, which has been managed by women for the last 3 centuries, even over 3 centuries. It's an amazing experience based in beautiful Lovo region in Switzerland. Next to Caroline, we have Sarah Toms, our own Chief Learning Innovation Officer at IMD. Coming in with a plethora of AI experience, also working very hard on making sure IMD is in the forefront in AI innovation, in learning innovation for our learners. We are also joined by 2 executives from Schindler Group. We have Juliana Silva. Juliana is Head Product Configurator Executive at Schindler Group. And we have Donato Carparelli, who is the Chief Technology Officer at the Schindler Group. I will stop here with their introduction because I want them to talk a little bit more on their experience as they share reflections from their industries and their personal life on the topic. So without any further ado, I would like to pose my first question to get into the discussion. And what I would like to do is to give space to our panelists to share their insights. What is it like that they observe, they see for women to be thriving in traditionally male majority industries? And I think technology is one, manufacturing and construction is another one, and winery is another one, right? So Caroline, is it okay that we start with you? How is it has been for you, and what is your experience? What is your observation? How is it for women to thrive in wine industry?
Yeah. But for me, I mean, it's very nice because it's a family winery. So it was, I would say, easy to get in. But when I took over at the death of my father, women in the wine industry, we were strange beasts. I would say that today not. It's something that it's not common. But we are many and many women owning oenologists, viticulturists, or winemakers in all the world. I mean, not only in Switzerland. So now it's really nice. I mean, the male are always there, and but still we have our position.
Thank you, Caroline. So there's a lot of history also that you are bringing in. How about maybe more a recent and these days a very active one? Sarah, can I turn to you, and from a pure digital transformation or technology industry, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah, thank you so much, Oiko. So what we know in the tech industry is that women have been a minority for a very, very long time. Where I see, and I've worked in organizations where the women have been very supported, and I've worked in organizations, unfortunately, where women have been marginalized and they really haven't found their foothold and been able to thrive and, become bigger in their roles and be promoted. And what I would say is affinity groups are a great way to provide a safe space for minorities within the tech field to come together, to find their voice, to feel stronger, and to also find courage to go for that promotion, to also amplify each other in meetings where they may be being spoken over or not listened to. There are many microaggressions that happen in organizations, especially because of bias, looking at women. Even now, I'm close to 30 years in the tech field. I'm still having to justify and prove myself to many of the men that I sit across from in meetings. And that needs to stop, right? So awareness training, and then also finding men who can become our allies. And that's been another place where we have so much opportunity to really help support women, especially when they're minorities in a field like technology.
Thank you, Sarah. Juliana, you're also working in a male majority industry and business. How about you? What has been your experience and how do you see this progressing?
Yeah, I think the elevator industry, right? Schindler is one of the top leaders in this segment. We don't understand elevators until we come in, because until there's just a box, you press in and you are there. And then once you get into it, I say it's also you are bitten by a bug of this industry per se. Of course, it's male dominant. I was in operations in US for some years, and it's even more prevalent, right? In construction, you see a lot of male. But what has helped me is really mentorship and sponsorship, and I would say my courage of being myself and understanding how to navigate that from a sense of connecting to people, creating a community, male, female, where you get respected, where your knowledge and your merit is what makes you come up the ladder. And it's not because you are a female. And I think the beauty of Schindler has been in my career, all the opportunities that I said, okay, let me hop on this, either raising my hand or really just being invited, like what happened in the past years with Donato when he brought me to his team. So it's been an honor to be in the industry. It's challenging. I do agree with what Sarah said. There is a way to go, right? When we are spoken over or someone is just pretending that you are not in the room is not a good feeling at all. And I especially think that the male or our partners, they need to acknowledge and be aware about that. And when you have a leadership who really is inclusive, then it's easier. It doesn't mean that it, let's say, it is so smooth. There is a process. I think you also develop a tough skin and how you learn to navigate. But yeah, from my view, that's why we are also here, to be able to help others, to be able to multiply and to move forward and make the impact for the next generation, right? It's not about us, it's about the next generation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Juliana. And you talked about mentorship. And of course, now I think it's a perfect segue to Donato. First of all, Donato, thank you. We really look forward to hearing your perspectives. And I think it's really important that I'd like to highlight here that you have promoted more women compared to your peers in the industry, right? I think that says a lot from an initiative taking perspective. Can you also share not just within Schindler Group, but within the industry, what has been your observations recently on this topic?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. Actually, what Sarah said touched me a lot, right? It still touched me when I hear that a woman should demonstrate or should do more than a man in the industry to be able to be listened to. It comes from my background, right? I was born in an Italian family. My mother is Italian. And you know how much the Italian mom care about the guys, right? Normally, I have two sisters, and normally in Italy, the man does nothing, everything else is done by the sister. In my family, it was not the case. My mom treated us absolutely equal, so I had to do the same stuff as my sister, and it went on. I was a minority on all my life by being exposed to a lot of women. We were two at the primary school with a lot of women, and it went on. And this helped me a lot to feel this what it means to be a minority. But also, I was exposed to being with women and to understand a bit more this word. Then when I came to the industry, you're absolutely right. I noticed this is still there. We still have huge gaps, and as I mentioned, it is simply something you need to pretend. You need to want. You need to push. So it doesn't come naturally still. I hear what you say, Sarah, and also what Juliana says. So in my teams, I always try to, and I'm always misunderstood. When I say I want to, for me, there is no difference between a woman and a man. Sometimes they see me that, oh, he's not caring about women. It's not that. I mean, to me, inclusion means giving the same opportunity, and we will talk later about the benefit of it, right? So it came very natural to me, so I didn't need to force myself. But of course, you have to want it still, and this is a bit of a problem to work on.
Thank you, Donato. I think what you highlighted is also a great point to continue the discussion on, because of course here we are all talking about what this is so important. We should push for this more. For instance, I was just reading an article this morning about the field of cybersecurity, right? In 2013, only 10% of the workforce in cybersecurity was women. Now there's a target for 2031 to make this 10% 35%, so 3 times within about 20 years. This is a progress we're celebrating, fitting to the name of the webinar we're in, right? What are these things we should measure to see that we are progressing, right? Why is this important? I would like us to articulate a little bit of the why of that we are having this conversation, and how can we actually observe progress. Maybe, Donato, would you like to continue? Because this is exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah, it's on the why. Why is important? I'm against the quota as such, right? Because it's not. This is not the purpose. That and when you listen, the 30%, why 30? Why not 40? Why not 50? Right? I mean, if you look at the human population, there are more women than men. But coming back to my experience, I mean, first of all, if you look back and really, this is what I experienced myself, having this gender mix, but not only gender mix, right? It can be cultural mix and so on. It's really enriched. I mean, I have to say that there is a different view. I mean, I see that the women in my team have a different view, a different way to look at this, right? And this helps tremendously. Especially, you mentioned, Sarah, I was head of innovation, right? In the innovation field, I was head of innovation. At 50% of my team were female women, right? And this was just, actually, it happens a bit naturally again in the way of thinking. And this helps by there is, first of all, a different way to look at things. But then when it comes to the impact, is there where you see the difference, right? I mean, maybe it's just happen by case, but the women in my team, they are loyal, they are extremely engaged, and they deliver. And sometimes they deliver more. So I'm a bit also opportunistic on that. So I get a lot of benefit. And that school was the same, right? Who were the best engineer? Most of the time are the women, which are so, and excluding that from our portfolio is just wrong. And I think it comes back from history, from culture, and the issue is really not with women, it's with men. This is what we need to talk about. The point is really the men, which we need to work on the men and really getting them to the level that they understand the opportunity they may miss if they are not hiring a woman in their team. That's my personal experience so far.
Thank you, Donato. Caroline, what do you think? How about your industry? Why do you think this makes a difference? Why is it important that we include and allow women to thrive more in your industry?
But I think, I mean, we have a position in the wine industry that is very important, and we choose the job, and we really wanted to do wine because we love it, and sometimes on the male side is because they were the son of. And it's our choice. So, for example, myself, I mean, I did a lot of different things before, and suddenly I was just dropped on the winery because my father died, and I really wanted to be on the winery, but I was only 30 years old, so it was late. But it's very good also because we have a wide vision since we had other experiences. And so it's very good. And in this wine business, we are always very modest. So we don't put ourselves in front of, but we always smile and do the job. So we are now recognized as women winemakers and that we make good wines. And most of us are also on the biological side of the wine industry. And maybe our feeling with the earth is more important than some other people. But now I think it's really good that many young women are beginning the school and beginning to take over and beginning to have new ideas on the wine industry, and it's very, very good.
Thank you. So there's this, of course, family lineage is a core element in the industry, and that's a great example when you bring in that there is this wide perspective that women can bring to the knowledge that's been created in the industry, right? And from Donato, we heard about also breaking the biases that also should be merit driven, not necessarily gender does play a role in this. What do you think, Sarah? How is it? What kind of differences should we expect to see and maybe already see when we have more women in technology development processes?
Yeah, and I completely agree with Donato and Caroline there. You know, when we know, and this has been studied a ton, right? So we know when we bring more diversity to the table, we'll have more innovation. I also have been reflecting a lot, and Oiko, you and I discuss this very frequently about, you know, the state of AI. And how much bias is in AI. And I do wonder, you know, if it wasn't, you know, 5-10% of women on these AI teams, if we would have as much bias, you know, would there have been more kind of hands going up and saying, should we release something that is so male dominated, so North American centric, doesn't include other cultures, doesn't include other mindsets? And would we have maybe, you know, pumped the brakes a little bit more? One of the things that I really look at and focus on a lot is looking at the barriers for why women are not entering IT. I think that, you know, even small things like when you look at a job description and women tend to opt out when they don't meet 100% of the qualifications. When I was at the Wharton School, we spent a lot of time making sure that all of our resumes for IT jobs actually went through AI to see, do we have bias within this that will be holding women back from applying for these jobs. And that actually helped us with a big uptick in more women coming and applying for the jobs in the technology field at the Wharton School. And I think these are small things that we can be doing. I also think we need to look at not just people who are entering the workforce in their 20s, we need to be looking earlier. You know, what are we doing with respect to socializing our young girls and giving them a wide array of opportunities, and really as parents, as educators, young in their journey, saying, you know what, you could be a scientist working in wine, you could be working on a manufacturing floor, you could be working in AI and technology, and getting these young girls really excited about that, and realizing that this is not just sitting and writing a lot of code. This is actually a very creative field that is going to open up a wide number of opportunities, and opportunities where they are going to have an incredibly positive impact in the world. So I think that this is a really big conversation and super, super important, but it is about opening up opportunities.
Thank you, Sarah. And Juliana, of course, your perspective as well. And maybe I will add to the question as you are talking about articulation of why it is important, right? But also Sarah, as well as Donato and Caroline, they all started listing the benefits that we know that already has been shown in research, right? What happens? But also, I'm wondering, given your experience, right? I think it's really curious to hear what else maybe you observed as that is as a benefit arising from diversity around the table that we did not necessarily expect to see, right? What are some surprising byproducts of having diversity inclusion around the table when you have more women in male majority industries? So maybe that's an additional question that I'd like to hear your perspectives on.
Sure, sure. So the why for me is very clear. We are in a society, we are 50-50, right? So in the why that we exclude. So for me, it's all about inclusion, and then less about the differences. Because at the end, if you are really bringing the voices to the table and giving the opportunities, we are going to thrive, regardless, if we are ready, if we are prepared. Mm-hmm. So, and then, of course, the outcomes, it's to Donato's point, right? The engagement, the commitment. It could be male or female or any different backgrounds, right? And I think the leadership has a big role on this, where we all as leaders are here to build up, to add to our employees, right? And make sure that the environment allows voices to be heard. From a perspective of what is the new element, right? I think it's the beauty of what I always hear on the inclusion field. Oops.
Oh, it's a pity. I was.
Yes, I think we did lose Juliana because of connection issues, but she's back.
Yes, I don't know where I stopped, but I was talking about inclusion from a sense of the belonging feeling and the uniqueness of all of us as individuals, right? And if we put this together in that psychological safety perspective, I think this is what is going to make a difference in every environment that we are in. Because if you want women to become men, right, then it's also wrong, right? And that's why the beauty of acknowledging that, yes, we are unique, each one of us, and every voice matters. And if there is a balance that I go up to here to belong, right, but I am authentic to myself. And that's again why I love Schindler, because that's what I do every day. I come to work very energized to be myself. And in that space, that safe space that Schindler has brought to my life, allowed me to be here, not just for me, but always thinking about the teams, always thinking about others and the customers that we face, right? So again, for me, we are here to impact the generation and not just what we do here today.
Thank you, Juliana. So from you, but from also everybody else, I'm hearing how do we track progress about this, right? I'm hearing, do we have a safe place? Can everyone show up with authenticity, right? Do we have a variety of perspectives, and do we have understanding and support from executives and mentorship? And can we break down some mental barriers? These are the things that I'm hearing. And as a topic, this is something we have been talking about for a while now, right? Then my question is as follows. What remains to be done? What remains to be done? And I'd like to hear from Schindler, Donato, and Juliana from you, because as a progressive organization, I think you're very self-reflective as well. So, which is as an organization that has already progressed quite a bit on this topic, what is on your agenda? What still remains to be done, do you think?
In my family, start a lot. Still remain a lot to be done, because I do feel there are barriers which are still there, unfortunately, in the mindset of certain people. It's just a fact, right? It's a very dominated male industry without no reason, because it's not just in the technology. Right? If you look at my company, Schindler company, of course, in the engineering field, we are doing sometimes better than finance. Now you can ask yourself, right? The excuse in engineering is that, you have only 20%, you have only 10%, it's difficult to find. This is what you always hear. In all the discipline, this is not the case. If I go to economy, finance, you'll find many women studying, right? So it's really something, mindset to be changed and to accept that we have to do it. So it's not for me. It's not an option. And of course, sometimes you get the comment from my male colleagues, right? Are you hiring only women because you have to hire women? No. I mean, Juliana knows me. I'm extremely careful and I'm extremely oriented in performance. So I really make sure that, whatever is as a man, as a woman, they need to perform, they need to be on top of it. But what is really annoying is still the fact that you mentioned, Juliana, that you need to become a man, or you need to think like a man, or like you say, Sarah, you need to go over this barrier. You have to speak up in meetings because otherwise you're not listening. What we need to do as a leader to be totally intolerant. So we should not accept this. So we should not accept those kind of behavior from our employee. And then we should, I think, it's my experience where I would sometimes disagree with the way we work on that. When I see this woman community meeting, right, and this is what we also do in Schindler, let's have all the women together and speak to the CEO or the CTO. To me, inclusion means we should have this, we should prepare also the female to get the courage, you see, to simply believe and be strong. So there is no limit, there is no difference. You should not be a man you should be yourself. To be yourself, you need to have the courage to confront yourself with your mate. So the point is, to me, it's much more educated than male. And it comes from understanding. When you don't understand the culture, you don't understand culture, then you're kind of scared about things. And what I try to do with my team is simply to make sure that, exactly, we include people there. And if they don't understand, I speak to them. The surprising things in my experience, it was not what HR was telling me, you have to be careful, you are hiring female, they need a certain treatment. No, the problem was how the male sometimes were reacting and they were feeling offended by the power of certain of the female hiring team, right? They don't need any babysitting. In fact, they are really strong and they are themselves, right? So, but it's come to leadership. So we as a leader, we have to make sure that this happens. We have to make sure that, yes, we give an opportunity, similar opportunity, and we are really try to find the best women, like we do with the men, right? And this is extremely important. If you're hiring a female just because it's a female, the first really employee which have a problem are the female, because they say, she's there just because she's a female, right? They don't want this. So we have a lot to do on a leadership to really strive for it and make sure that, we go certainly above this 30% quota. It's absolutely possible.
Thank you, Donato. As I'm listening to you, there are also so many follow-up questions popping up, right, in best practices. And I do hope we'll have the time to touch base on these. But I would like to take this opportunity to remind our listeners to type in their questions in the Q&A box, because we'll definitely probably revisit some of these concepts that we already discussed at the end of the webinar. And with that, Juliana, anything to add from the Schindler Group perspective to what Donato just mentioned? What still remains to be done? What kind of still challenges that you still observe that requires resolution today?
Yeah, that I have a dream. I have a dream that we don't need to talk about this, that this is really part of our culture, right? The same way as for Schindler, safety is the number one priority. And yes, we talk about it because we care about people, right? And that's for me the same. Once we say we have equality, we have inclusion, and this is part of our culture, we don't even need to talk about it. Any new employee who comes in feels included, then we got it, regardless of percentages, right? I think it's the cultural environment that you are in. And of course, the leadership for me is who is going to be emulating that. So yes, this is where I think we need to be working on as a company, right? Where Donato mentioned about the mindset and the male side of it. So I'm looking forward to a bright future and being part of it. Not that it's someone else's responsibility. I am accountable for that with each team member who is part of our teams here. So thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. That's so beautiful. The day we don't talk about this at all is the day that we look forward to, right? That's thank you for sharing. Sarah, what do you think? What still remains to be done? You already
I
started saying some of these, right? You said we should start really early in girls' education, self-esteem, and how we motivate them. What else do you have in mind that you think we still should work on?
Yeah, and I agree with my esteemed panelists that there is still a lot of work to do. I think about my own family. You know, I'm a mom of 4 kids. I have 3 daughters. I have a son. My son, like Donato, has grown up with a very female-dominated, woman-dominated family. And as a youngster, I got called into his teacher's room because he was stopping the other boys in a team who kept speaking over a little girl. And the teacher said that he was being aggressive. And I said, you know, he's not. He knows that these are issues that me and his sisters are facing. And he is trying to amplify this other little girl who is being spoken over. So I do think that this is something we need to look at across the board, across generations. I do think within organizations, we need to de-silo, we need to bring DEI into everything we're doing. And I love what Juliana was saying, that kind of matrix moment of there is no DEI, you know, like it just is part of everything that we do. And we have that holistic awareness of how to be a better team member, how to be a better leader, and how to be a better parent.
Thank you, Sarah. What a beautiful story you shared. Thank you for sharing that. Caroline, let me turn to you. How about your industry? How do you see the comparison? What do you think still remains to be done?
But I would say that for us women winemakers, the best thing that the last word to, I mean, the last thing to do is to have visibility, and that's very important. And have been trying for years and years to organize the things that we are in front of the production, like with the Association of Women Winemakers. And so we talk, the people talk about us, and now with a wine fair with only women winemakers. So at least we have this visibility. What is missing, I would say, at least in our country, is that we are women winemakers, but in the highest level, that means promotion and leadership, we are missing. So there is a lot to be done yet. But little by little, we are succeeding.
Thank you for sharing. So you added um, your thoughts on what remains to be done, and you already shared some pointers. But I think it would be very interesting to discuss some applicable suggestions, right? Because we have also our listeners listening into this conversation. They are reflecting as they're listening to you. What can our listeners do actively to support the cause? When you say these are the things that remains to be done, what can they do to contribute? What are your suggestions on this? Sarah, would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is looking at all the different activities that you do, let's say for your organization and with your organization. From the standpoint of, does everybody have equal share of voice at the table? Are there people who are being quiet? And I have, you know, with working with a lot of, especially women in technology, I've had quiet men come up to me who say, you know, all the issues that you're speaking about, which are women are affected by, so are introverted men. You know, can you help to coach me? Can you help to mentor me? So we need to be aware, you know, of not just the women at the table, but others as well who might be struggling to share what they have to say. And I will say, going back to what we said before, giving them opportunity to say something, more innovation will come to your team, more ideas, and you're actually going to be a more successful organization overall.
Thank you, Sarah. Juliana.
Yeah, I love what you said, Sarah. Thank you, because it's this environment that we can explore and be curious, right, and learn together. And I'm an introvert, so a lot of times I just felt what you said there, because I am here with my thoughts, and that doesn't mean that it's not relevant, right? So when you have a leadership or a table that we can really say, oh, but I also want to say something, and you are safe to do so. It doesn't matter if it's gender or not. And that's the beauty, or even different backgrounds. We are in a very global organization where we have a weekly session with Donato with people from across the world and people remote. So it goes back to biases, right, that we need to be aware, but also the differences of all of us. And how, again, for me, it's about inclusion, right? And how to invite others to contribute. And if all of us have the mindset of this exploration, and this is our way of life, then it elevates and builds up the team.
Thank you, Juliana. Donato?
Yes, I want to go back to what Sally was saying before in the self-confidence, right? And I think this is an extremely important point. We often hear she has to demonstrate, or someone has to demonstrate something, to get confidence. And this is, of course, if you combine this to someone which, because of her background, was a bit insecure because of many steps, then this combination, of course, creates a problem, right? And you mentioned, Juliana, be courageous. It's not so obvious to say you have to be courageous, and why a woman needs to be more courageous than men. Here, personally, right, again, I was lucky in my career, in my life, because my father was a person which gave me extremely trust, even above any expectation. Now with my children, I have two daughters, and one she's an engineer, by the way, and I didn't influence her; she chose that. And I always and the same with my team, right? You trust people. It has to become just natural that they feel you trust, and only by doing that, of course, then you may fail, right? And then you need to correct and you have to support the people to get it right. But you have to do. This is again something which we need to, as a leader, to make sure that the leader understands that you trust and you give the same opportunity, right? And this is something which is still not there. So we need to work on that part as well very much, so that the woman which comes to the industry, they just don't need to. They just don't need to demonstrate anything more than anyone else, right? And this is true for the different culture, especially if you come to, Switzerland, right? And this is a country where we have an issue. I was in China 5 years. There, I had, really 30, 40% even of the team was female, a woman, very strong. And nobody think, do they can they do? It's a very natural in China to find women in leadership position, right? So here I have to say, like you mentioned, Sarah, in US, in Europe, in other countries, I want to mention India. So we have this topic, and it's only by making sure that we have an agenda, taking care of this, and making sure that we give full trust to any employee, any diversity of employee, we're gonna reach a level where, again, the self-confidence. And I agree with Sarah. We should start very early. At school, the discrimination sometimes starts there, right? In the engineering field, why a woman should be, a scientist, right? We should really work hard now in the next year to come to make sure that this goes away. That we really, and if we are not doing that, this will not come. So it's not about the quota. It's really about making sure that the woman don't need to do something special to be what they are. So this, what you mentioned, Juliana, right? And you can be an introvert, and you can be any kind of person, but you have to have your space, and you have to be able to demonstrate your capability, and then it becomes really exciting.
Thank you, Donato. Caroline?
I think that, what are our quality, it's that we want to share. We want to share our experiences. We want to share our contacts. We want to share everything. And so we are always open to new people and to people that ask questions and that want to discover. So it's one of our best quality is the sharing, and the fact, in fact, the self-confidence is sometimes missing. But at least if we encourage ourselves to go to the people and to share, that we will have a better position for sure.
Thank you,
And
Caroline.
Oiku, if I could just jump in there, because
Yes.
another question that I think we always get frequently is about imposter syndrome, right? And at the core of this advice that we're all giving about confidence is a way to get over something like imposter syndrome. One of our biggest responsibilities is in fact to say, you know what, we've got this. We can fail a little bit and it's going to be okay. And it's making sure that we don't have a double standard where, men may be allowed to fail more and they're seen as being innovative. When a woman fails, she's seen as being a failure. So it's making sure that we also don't have double standards in how we measure the women that we work with.
Thank you, Sarah. Exactly complementing what Donata was saying about this a different level of expectations, right? So I wonder if there are any questions from our listeners. So Josephine, I'm going to turn to you to tell us if there are any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. So Oiko and I sit in the same room, if you wonder. That's why we turn a little bit. Yeah, we have a couple questions. One that I think is actually really nice for all of you to explore is when you are in an interview setting and you are either interviewing or in the first month of your work in a new organization, what is the evidence that you can see to make sure that this is a healthy culture in terms of gender diversity and inclusion? That's an interesting question.
It's a great question. What are the telltale signs?
And I'm happy to offer an answer when everybody is done with it as well. But
anyone who'd like to take it up first?
Well, if it's okay, so I'm relatively new at IMD. You can probably hear from my accent that I'm from the States, so I'm new into Switzerland, and so this is relatively recent for me. What really struck me as I was being interviewed for this role at IMD was how diverse. So we have a lot of women in our top leadership ranks, so over 60%. That was really eye-opening for me and very unique for an elite business school to have that kind of representation at the top. And I would also say, going through the interviewing process, I had the opportunity to be interviewed by many, 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 many people. It was not just one or two people. And that gave me a really good opportunity to ask questions about, opportunities for women, and to also see how I was being treated in that interview process. Was I being given an opportunity to actually share my ideas? And as somebody who's responsible for, or one of the people responsible for innovation here, how much does an organization like this getting scared a little bit by some maybe out there ideas, is there an openness to that as well? So just some recommendations from my recent experience.
Thank you. So looking at the top, who is there, right? What kind of people I'm talking to, and their openness to innovative ideas. Great suggestions. How about the interview process at Schindler? What should they look at? Donato and Juliana, any comments?
I mean, if I may, Juliana. So it's very interesting. Of course, I'm mostly on the other side, right? But I learned something in China, which it applies also here. I mean, it's sometimes you cannot really choose everything in your life, but two things you can choose. You can choose your leader, right? And you can choose as well your job, right? This is something you can say yes or no. And I think it's extremely important that you feel that the leader which is hiring you is that kind of person which will give you this opportunity. And you have to be extremely clear on that. Is a company clear? It's a company, but it's the leader you're gonna which is there to really give you a chance and the right opportunity. And that you are not just there because they want to fill a quota, and then at the end of the day, it's one thing is the quota, and one thing what you then will give as opportunity. And this is something you, as a woman, you will be able to understand, right? You're speaking to someone which genuinely see you as one of the employees, or it's a female, and then I need to be. So if he's too careful, be careful, right? We have to be. You have to be seen like anyone else in the organization, and then I think you so choose your lead. That's my recommendation. If you can.
Thank you, Donato. Josephine?
Thank you. Yeah, I can't help it. So I'll just share a couple of thoughts. What you can do when you're still external and you want to find out where a corporation is at or a company is at, you can go to the annual report. The annual report today lists a lot of information on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And globally, we can only measure nationality and gender. So you will always find gender information in any annual report. And there you can see what's the percent at the supervisory board, what's the percent at the executive committee, and different levels of seniority. So that gives you a picture, but it doesn't talk to you about the culture. So you also need to see, is inclusion mentioned? Is equity mentioned? Do they give examples in the annual report of equity, such as pay equity, accessibility, or inclusion? For example, culture. Are managers trained to ensure, we talked about it earlier, that women get the same responsibility or the same feeling they can go and apply for jobs? That's the external. The images in the annual report will also tell you how inclusive the organization is. Is it over the top, or is it realistic, or are they lagging? So you need to have some sensitivity to observe that, but you can see a lot just by the images that an organization chooses in their annual report. And then once you are inside the organization, you can see, do they have networks? Do they have women networks, people of color networks, etc.? Do networks exist? And become a member of the network. But networks are telling. Who sponsors the network? Is it a middle manager, or is it somebody from the executive committee? And right there, it tells you already whether senior management is truly and fully behind employee networks. And then you can observe what happens in meetings. Do women get interrupted, or is a buddy in the room helping a woman to finish her sentence, her thought, her ideas? If she is interrupted and her idea is picked up later by somebody else, does someone in the room say, hey, time out, Sarah just mentioned it. Sarah, can you elaborate what you wanted to say? So these are very strong signals of where a culture is already. What I just described would be an organization that's very advanced and very mature in inclusion, when in meetings, people feel the contract and the ability to constructively say, hey, time out, can we just watch this, please? And then the last but not least is during the interview today, it's perfectly accepted and admitted to ask the question, how are you doing on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Do you have your pay equity certificate? I am amazed at what our MBAs ask today in this area of DE&I. When I started my career 25 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamt of asking those questions. I really wanted to make sure that my competence came forward, but it's very good to see that these things change. And just because you asked this question, the participant who asked this question already shows a heightened sensitivity of the DE&I concept with people around us. There's
Thank
another
you.
question.
Yes.
To go to the.
I think we do have time for
Can I just add one thing? So,
Yes.
onboarding question. Ask, what is the onboarding plan for me? And then understand how the leader will really be there with you and how real that is. Because it's very easy to detach, right? I'm interviewing someone and then, okay, you are in, now you are on yourself. And usually I think for us as female leaders, we want to include, we want to onboard people and really take care of them. And I think this is a very important point. And again, be real. Be real as you are in the interview process and after you come there. So what is reality? And to the observation, sit back and observe, right? And then you can make a good choice on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. I think we do have time for one more question.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one because it's for us as an academic institution, but also for the Schindlers of this world as those who would implement this. And the question is the following. What is your view on leadership and management programs dedicated to women? So specifically women programs. There are men who say that this is unfair toward them. So love to hear your view on it.
Any comments? I think I immediately, when I hear this question, I think of the initiatives we have at IMD, right? We do have a long-standing women leadership program that is very much appreciated by its participants. This is a topic that we discuss in different settings all the time, right? So for us, and maybe my perspective is from only technology perspective, my experience, I did not hear any negative commentary, but if it is out there, how do we address this, right? What are your perspectives on this?
So I can add that I've been part of one of these leadership programs, and very interesting at the beginning to bring awareness of the self-confidence, to allow these ladies to have sponsors and mentors, so to have that conversation even with direct leadership. So from all of us part of this first program that we launched in US at that time, we all seen it as, oh, okay, it's nice to see that the company is taking care of it. But the most impactful time happened when we were together and the male leaders came to the room and they were listening about experiences from us, meaning, oh, I got pregnant and what do I do? Do I still have a job? And then when you say that in a room and you are almost crying and the leader, a male leader says, is that ever on your mind? Because in my mind, I would just be celebrating your pregnancy. So very real conversations that allow the medium, let's say, level leadership to be back to say, oh, okay, I really need to pay more attention on this. Because there are things from a perspective of, does this matter? And then when we were saying, yes, it does matter a lot. Mm-hmm. So it elevated the male leadership to understand certain things. Though what happens after a program, mm-hmm. right? And then what do you do? What I say, are we really taking care of the ladies who are already in the company or any kind of diversity, right? We talk a lot about onboarding or bringing them in, interviewing, but what do we do with the ones who are in? And I think the program is one step ahead. But if there is no longevity, it's not sustainable as a culture that impacts the culture, it's just another program. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, Juliana. I think it's really important to highlight the benefit out of the programs, such programs, right? For the person, but for the organization as well. Maybe such a striking example that you share, that these programs leading the way to honest conversations and as a means to influence the top leadership that you all mentioned, how it is important to have such sponsorship in our organizations. Any other comments about this, Caroline, Sarah, Donato?
I would say that in our position is completely different because we are independent. Yes. So we are on our own wineries, so we are alone facing the world, I would say. And the important thing for us is that when we are together, like in a wine fair or in an association, then we can share together our experiences, also our expertise and our new ideas. And so it's the way that we open between us that's very important. But being independent, it's completely different than in a company style. So that's the thing. Yeah, but still, I think it's really important to highlight. You're also referring to the importance of having a support network, right? Not necessarily within a company, but you gave the great example of creating an ecosystem of supporting independent yet supporting each other businesses to find support to create that environment in the industry. Yes, absolutely. And there is no, it's not there is no contest between us. I mean, we are really open to be better and to do better wines and to have more customers, but to share as well the customers with the others. So it's really very interesting that we are a group and together. Yeah. Thank you, Caroline.
And here I am watching the time. We have about 5 minutes left. So, with that being said, I guess I'd like to give the word to you for a final round of reflections. And I'd like to end with what we started, celebrating the progress, right? What do we celebrate? What do you celebrate today regarding having more women in the business that you're in? So, your final reflections and what are you proud about the progress that we have would be a great way to conclude, I think. Donato, can we start with you?
Yes. First of all, maybe it's me and the company. So I'm very proud that the executive committee is really taking care of this topic, right? We have a gap, and we acknowledge there is a gap. And yes, we need to work on this program. We were discussing before, but we need to do much more. And linked to what Juliana says, important is as well to continuously work on the subject when the women employees are with us. And let's say I will celebrate maybe a few years from now, because I'm sure that the company and myself in person we are doing well, we are improving. There is a way to go. So I will celebrate once we achieve probably better results.
Thank you, Donato.
You're right.
Sarah?
It's such an interesting question, because as I'm reflecting about the things I'm excited about and really proud of, and then I can see the flip side where things are starting to slide. So one thing that I'm very optimistic about is that we have the opportunity to have a conversation like this. On the flip side, why is it only one day for women? When we have an entire year that we need to be doing this, I think we need to be more agile as we look at these types of issues and not just be focusing one day in a year. I look at the tech industry and I see gains in some spaces where, there's a lot in the news about the bias in AI, for example. That's something that we probably wouldn't have been talking about 20, 30 years ago. But on the flip side, how do we have bias in AI? We have technology that could have solved this problem before AI was released in the first place. So I think that, I'm excited that we have a conversation, we have a forum, we have a space to have these discussions, but I think there just needs to be a lot more.
Thank you, Sarah. Indeed, the tech industry is very much under the spotlight, right? And we have so many discussions also still how women are comfortable / treated in certain big tech companies. We always seems to be hearing an issue every year in a company, right? So this is definitely, as you all highlighted, progress to be made. Juliana?
Yeah, I can celebrate a good foundation. I think this conversation and where we were 50 years ago, right, it's very, very different from where we are. I think the speed of the world moving faster, but with a good foundation that can really add many more stories to it. So I am very hopeful that the next generation, or daughters, right, and the next generation will have a different environment because we are aware. We talk about it, and very soon we can start to harvest, because I see that we are investing a lot on planting good seeds, and that's for me the beauty. That's something to celebrate.
Thank you, Juliana. Caroline?
Yeah, but on my side, I would like really to encourage the young girls and women to realize their dreams, whatever could be the function, the job, even if they are only men, but they just do. And that's very important, to be strong.
Thank you. Josephine, do you have anything to add as a reflection also for the webinar?
Well, I would say we need to be aware that you need to act around inclusion in everything you say and do every single day. So every single day you have an opportunity to support. In this case, we're talking about women. Of course, I also think in a broader scale, other people from underrepresented groups. But every day you have an opportunity to make a difference. If somebody gets interrupted, stop the person who interrupted. It has to be safe for sure, but the more people do it, the more it becomes normal and accepted and then perfectly fine. And people even become aware they're interrupting, so they stop the interruption. So stop the interruption. Speak on behalf of somebody if they're not in the room. Ask who should be in the room, who is not in the room right now. Make sure that you sponsor a network if you're a senior leader. Make sure that when you do interviews, you have a broad variety of people interviewing candidates. There's a lot of best practice of that out there already. So there are many actions that you can actually take on a very daily basis. So every day you have an opportunity to make a difference if you're an individual contributor as well as a leader in an organization.
Thank you, Josephine. I think this was an amazing conversation. Thank you very much to each of you for your input, for your different perspectives. Diversity of perspectives and industries present in this panel is also very, very inspiring. And you all referred to the existing progress, but there's also still to be done to progress even better. So this is a culture change. This is a mindset change. You talked about mindset silos as well. So takes time and takes us keeping at it, right? So just Josephine just mentioned, that we need to keep at it every day, that talk about this, keep top of mind, and make sure this topic is top of mind as well. I would like to thank every single one of you for your time today. And thank you very much for your candidly sharing your experiences and your perspectives on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for dialing in.
Thank you.
And we certainly hope to see you in other webinars and other IMD events, and wishing you all a great rest of the day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yes, happy International Women's Day.